Today's episode is brought to you by Patreon. If you're interested in supporting the show, go to patreon.com/JoshuaVelas and become a $2 backer today and get early access to the new episodes. I'll be leaving a link in the description down below, but for now, on to today's episode. You're listening to the Augment Experience podcast. I'm your host, as usual, Joshua Velas. I'm a student, musician, and a gamer at heart. Join me as I sit down every week to talk about all the latest news in the technology, business, and video game world. I hope you guys enjoy. All right, everybody, welcome back to the show. My name is Joshua Velas. I am your host, as usual. And obviously, today's the Wednesday's episode, as you guys already know, episode 52, because, well, obviously, you guys already know we already did the 50th episode special and then last week's episode, so now we're at 52. One thing I will bring up right off the bat before we go into today's topic, because I know you guys voted on this, because I have a lot of stuff to say. I was about to say something else, but I remember I am trying to be as PG as I possibly can be. Obviously, I'm still debating if I'm still going to do the Friday episodes, because like I said, that was for the summer schedule that I was planning on doing that. I might or may, depending on how it goes in my classes, they're very time consuming and everything. So I may or may not. I might even put a poll and see what you guys think. But overall, I'll see how you guys react, and then I'll see how I feel about it, and then, we'll go about it. But overall, thank you guys for continuing to listen to the show. It means a lot to me. I know we are already on Spotify specifically. I haven't checked on all the other platforms, but I know on Spotify we hit over 50 listeners, active listeners of the show. So thank you guys so much for that. We are at 450 down. Yes, it's like 449 or 50. So we're almost close to 500 downloads. So half of 1,000 in less than a year. And I really thank you guys a lot for that. It really comes in handy. Obviously, my Patreon backers, thank you guys so much for your patronage. I appreciate you guys. Love you guys to death. I know, Gilberto. I know. But obviously today's episode is going to be over the Apple credit card, because, oh boy. Now, everybody's going to be like, okay, how is Josh going to approach this one? Because this is a very, not touchy subject, but it's very number based, and it heavily relies on depending on how you use your credit card and what you use it for. And now that Apple decided to make a credit card, it kind of relies on the ecosystem you're in as well, because that's what I'm going to talk about that in the episode. But why do I want to talk about the Apple credit card? What makes it worthy to talk about in the show? Because it's not really tech or business or anything related to video games. It really isn't. But it does relate to, I would say, keeping you in the Apple ecosystem. And I kind of view it as keeping you trapped in it. But that's the argument I'm going to make. That this card to me feels like it's just a way to keep you trapped in the Apple ecosystem and make you not leave it. And, for some people, they say that's a good thing. And for some people, they say, it's a bad thing. But it all depends on how you view it. But I want to break down this card in two different ways, like I said, in terms of keeping you stuck in the ecosystem, but at the same time, presenting you the options of this card not being so good. And to me, in terms of a credit card, I do agree this thing does have benefits. I'm not going to stand here and pretend like there isn't, but there are obviously some major flaws, and I will be presenting you some options for the people that actually, have some financial literacy when it comes to credit cards, because obviously when it comes to credit cards, it's a very dangerous game, because if you don't know what you're doing and you don't have any form of financial literacy, you're pretty much screwed. So that's kind of my objective with this, is that I'd say at least as fair as I can be. But at the same time, we'll be presenting you all the information that's presented to us. So what does the Apple credit card actually do? So obviously, as you guys know, it's a titanium card. The bank is Goldman Sachs, and we'll talk about that as well, because that's kind of one of the reasons I don't trust it. In terms of a card, so all the benefits it has. So it talks about all the no late fees, no fees for international traveling or international spending, all that jazz. And then we go into the actual nitty gritty, because like I said, this is a cashback card. Now keep that in mind. There's a difference between cashback and points based, because points are, they're points, and depending on how many points you get for the dollar you spend is different compared to cashback, because cashback gives you a percentage and points don't really operate that same way. But so this is a cashback card. and it talks about giving you 3% daily cash back. And it says that you get 3% cash back on everything you buy from Apple, whether it be from the Apple Store, apple.com, the App Store, or iTunes. This also includes games, in-app purchases, services like Apple Music, and iCloud storage. So it includes all that stuff. And also it will include different like specific partners, and it mentions Uber and Uber Eats specifically. So I don't know if it includes anything else, but I'm just going off what they specifically said. Now we have the 2% daily cash, which is everything you buy when you use Apple Pay, which I know Apple Pay is very popular. It's just like Samsung Pay and Google Pay. Obviously, Samsung Pay is more of the common one compared to Google Pay, but they're both still very popular. But obviously Apple Pay is the one that's being widely accepted because, Apple is very secure in that aspect. But it says you get 2% every time you use Apple Pay. So that includes, that's in every category. So there is, and it says it too, there is no limit. So, and it kind of makes you think like all the things you can use a credit card for every day, and you'll get 2% cash back on everything. And then you have the 1% daily cash, which happens if you come across a store or a website or an app that doesn't take Apple Pay yet, and they're still going to give you 1% cash back on that card. So that sounds great for a cashback card, I'd say for the people that they're trying to entice, but I will say there are better options. And the reason I kind of break it down in terms of the way I view it is not only can you get a better card in terms of a more secure bank, but you also get access to points, or you actually get more, I'd say, cashback, really. And you get more consistent cashback and not just very specific situations. And that's kind of how I view credit cards, especially with how I was shown how to operate them and how to view them. Is you have a card for most people, they usually have a card for everything. There's a card set for each specific, and it's each for one specific task. And that's kind of how I view it, because it seems like the most organized and functional way of doing things, because you're only focusing on one card to do one thing, and it's only for this one purchase. And this card, while I do agree it is a nice thing to have for Apple users, especially because, like I said, it does use Apple Pay. It's connected with the Wallet app. So you have control of everything in the Wallet app. It shows you, how much you spent. It shows you as your, how much did you spend exactly, and, no interest and things like that. Like, it does everything for you. It manages it for you, but you can do better and get more, I'd say, details from other places. And I want to start with the cards first, because obviously one thing people have been bringing up is obviously you can get more cash back and points from better cards, but they have annual fees. And that is true, but there are cards that are free that don't have annual fees. Well, they're not free, but they don't have annual fees. And I would say they're arguably better because they're more secure overall. And yes, you will not get as much cash back, but you will actually, one of them you will, for sure you will. And one of them actually relies on points, so you get more bang for your buck out of it. But let's start with the first card. The easiest one everybody jumps to is the Chase Unlimited Freedom, or the Freedom Unlimited, which is obviously Chase's big, I'd say, starting card, along with the Freedom, and then the one that they just started for the students that you only can get if you go inside a branch. And there are benefits. So when we go by the Chase website, when he brings up the card, it talks about you have unlimited 1.5% cash back on every purchase. So there is no, it's different tier. No, so you already get on every purchase, you're getting 1.5. So that means regardless, whatever you do, whether it be the Apple Store or whatever, you're getting 1.5. So you're not getting one on any store like the Apple Card. So you're already getting 1.5. So that's already better. Now, and obviously right now it has a benefit going on where you get $200 bonus after you spend $500 on purchases in your first 3 months of opening the card. You also get no annual fees as well. It has a low intro APR. You also have the cashback rewards, and they also don't expire, just like the Apple Card. And this is one thing I personally think that's kind of dumb that Apple thought about this with the Apple Card, was the whole percent of daily cash that, you can get your cash back in a day and everything, but that doesn't really help that much. You get what I'm saying? Why would you want your cash back immediately? Because you're not doing much. You get what I'm saying? You're not, I'd say, I put it like this. You have no need for the cash back immediately. It's something that's nice to have overall, but this also is the difference between points and cashback. Is cashback is a percentage of your how much you spent. Well, points can be valued, like say every dollar is like 1 point or 4 points or something like that. You get what I'm saying? Like it's something different. And one thing I do like more about the Chase Freedom Unlimited, and this is kind of one reason why I wanted to get it when I was first getting my credit, but I actually didn't. I ended up getting the other card I'm going to mention. But the Freedom Unlimited is one of Chase's gateway cards to lead into their more advanced card options and I'd say their impressive point system, because they have a very impressive point system. And it's a very good card because it builds into it. Because once you get the Freedom Unlimited, or you start with the Freedom, you build up to the Sapphire Preserved and then the Referred, and then like you build up until you get their more better cards. Because obviously, yes, Chase has reduced a lot of the perks out of their more, I'd say, upper end cards, but they're still very good because Chase point system is very robust and it's I'd say very useful. Obviously, yes, once you get to those higher cards, yes, you will be paying annual fees. So that's why I said we're not going to be comparing those cards, but this card does get an easy access point to getting those higher cards because it's an easy way to build your credit. Now, obviously, some people are going to be like, well, Josh, I can't get a titanium card. True. But there are downsides to having that titanium card, which everybody has been joking about for the past few days now, is that you can't have the card in leather or denim because it will ruin the card, which I think that's personally stupid. Like, I don't know why I can't have a card in my wallet when most people's wallets are leather anyways, or I'm not saying everybody runs with denim, but leather is very common for most people's wallets. Obviously, if you're a girl, maybe, I don't know. Like, I don't know if you guys have leather wallets or, well, you guys don't have wallets, you have purses, but very different things. But aside from the point, I think it's really dumb that Apple couldn't think of a smart way to not get the card ruined by leather, which that's kind of dumb when every other high-end card, credit card specifically, is made out of metal. So it's kind of dumb, but that's why I said that's another knock for me. But obviously, we have more cards to talk about, so we're going to talk about the card I got, which was the Discover It card. And I have the student variant specifically, but the Discover It card in general is really good. The reason I like this card is because not only do you have, obviously, no annual fee, obviously low starting APR, but the cashback is a little bit different, where you only get 1% cashback on every purchase, but they also have the 5% cashback in different quarters for different things. And depending on the quarter, you'll get it for different stuff. So they have one for gas and gas stations. They have one for groceries, restaurants, Amazon, and etc. And it keeps like switching every quarter. So you're getting 5% if you use it in those quarters. So right now in this quarter, I can get 5% cash back on Amazon, and I believe it was gas. I think it was gas, or because I know when I first got the card, it was 5% cash back on restaurants and PayPal. So that helps out a lot because I use a lot of PayPal for my little Dokkan shop. And then I like going out to eat, and that's the card I use when I go to restaurants because I get cash back on it. And it overall adds up because the 5% cash back is a bigger difference compared to 3-in-1 because you're getting more out of it. And to me, I like this card. It's also because Discovery and Chase and, well, I'll spoil it now, Citi, they're more reliable banks in comparison to the bank that Apple's using for the Apple credit card, which is Goldman Sachs. And if you're somebody that is very aware of what's going on in terms of, well, if you're very aware of what that bank is, then they were the ones that are heavily, heavily associated with causing the 2008 stock market crash, which has been very documented. And I'm not going to go into it, but it's very documented that they were the leading cause that led to the 2008 crash. And to me, a lot of people have been questioning me about that and asking, like, Josh, why do you think that they went with this bank if they know that this bank is not it doesn't have a good reputation? It's not that reliable. And obviously, yes, it almost destroyed the American economy, or almost destroyed the United States, and well, probably the world's economy at this point. But that's why I said, to me, it was weird that they went with this bank. I don't know why they didn't want to partner with anybody else. I think it's because, Goldman Sachs was probably desperate, and they know the recognition that comes with Apple is very handy. Like, I think Chase or any one of them would have gladly I think gladly would have took Apple, and they would have given them a better, I wouldn't say a better deal, but I think they would have been more secure. And if Apple is so heavy on security, it baffles me that they went with this bank, because it's, as we've already shown and documentation has shown, that this bank is not that reliable, especially when, for my people that listen to the show in the US, it essentially screwed over a lot of people's lives in 2008. Like, a lot of people were pissed about that, because during the time, a lot of people lost a lot of money. And that's why I said, I don't know why Apple did that. And to most people, that just sours them, because they don't want anything to do with that card. Like, well, not the bank specifically. They don't want anything to do with the bank. Like, they probably have Apple products, but, you know, they probably didn't do research into the bank, and they're like, oh crap. And that's one of the big knocks for me, is terms of Apple talks about being so secure and talks about security being number one, and they talk about taking care of you, yet they partner with a bank that did the exact opposite and actually almost screwed over the entire world. It screwed over the US, and it almost screwed over the entire world. So well, sorry for the little side rant, but that's true. It's the reality. Like, if you don't believe me, you can look up the information yourself. Like, you can look up Goldman Sachs, and you can find so much stuff, incriminating evidence, that shows that they are heavily, and I think it's unanimously known that they were the leading cause of the 2008 crash. So if you don't believe me, you can look into it and come to that decision yourself. Or if you see that there's more evidence supporting otherwise, hey, share with me what you guys know. I don't mind. But yeah, going back to Discovery Card, I like the fact that they give you the 5% in each quarter, especially because the Amazon one is very important. And there's a reason I didn't want to include the All-In card, because it has 3% cash back on everything for the first year, and then 2.5 for every year after. But it has a $99 fee for annual fee. So that's why I didn't include it. I know a lot of people bring that card up, but I didn't want to include it because, you know, of the fact that it has an annual fee, and we want to make sure that we're comparing cards that are annual free, that they don't have any fees for, you know, for the annual fee. So we want to make sure that we present cards that are very healthy and very good. And obviously going into the next card clearly would be the Citibank Double Cash. The Citibank Double Cash is another good starting card as well. And this one actually has 2% on every purchase, with unlimited 1% cash back when you buy, plus an additional 1% when you pay for those purchases as you pay. So when you buy something, you get 1%, and then as you pay for it, you get the extra 1%. And then, you know, to earn the cash back, pay at least the minimum due on time, you know, and there's no charge on track there are no categories to track, no caps on cashback, and no annual fee. So it does have good benefits, obviously. The website doesn't really talk much about it. It's just they have 24-hour fraud protection, you know, the Citi theft solutions, the lost wallet service, you know, the protection service, the $0 liability for unauthorized charges, and, you know, other Citi benefits, you know. And it does lead into Citi's other cards too, because Citi does have some good cards as well. And to me, there are better cards. And it baffles me that a lot of people try to defend the Apple card specifically, because they're like, well, it's Apple's first try doing a card, you know, this isn't for everybody. They're not trying to do this. But even then, I'd say for starters, for people that want to start building credit, especially college students, because to them, they have more benefit building credit, because credit is a very important thing if you know how to use it. And this is what leads into the whole idea of financial literacy. Is you have to be financially literate to actually know how to use a credit card. And a lot of people always say that credit cards are evil, they just put people in debt. But in the reality, they're very handy, because you get a lot of stuff from them, not for free, but you get rewarded for using the cards and using them in the way they're supposed to be used, essentially being smart with your money. You don't hold balances. You pay everything in full. When you buy something, you use it to the way, like, obviously, if you buy something, you pay it in full when it goes up and stuff like that. And that's how I learned how to build my credit to over 700 in less than a year, because obviously I did the tips and tricks that I learned from people that were more financially literate, and I heeded the advice, because there's a reason they tell you this thing, because it's very handy, it's very useful. And credit is a very important thing, because it leads to doors to more opportunities that are and it leads to access to more resources that are handy. You know, when you want to get an apartment, you have to get a credit background check. You know, if you want you open a new phone line, or say you go to a new phone company, they're going to do a credit check on you. And obviously buying a car, they do credit checks. You know, buying a house, credit check. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, the credit is very important, because the better the credit, the more money they can loan you out, and they can even give you a better deal on the loan. So you don't have to get so high of an interest rate. You can get a really low interest rate with a good credit score. And a lot of people don't realize this, because we're only going by the assumption that, oh, I abused my credit card so much and now I'm so much debt and it's the credit card company's fault. No, it's not. It's your fault. That's what it is. Like, you can't just put the blame on anybody else just because you were stupid. I'm sorry that hurts your feelings, but that's just the truth. If you were stupid with a credit card, that is your fault. Like, that's why they tell you that, you know, be careful with what you're doing. Make sure you read, like, and most people don't read the terms of service anyways, but they tell you to be mindful of what you're spending. Be smart. Spend what you have and don't spend what you don't have. Like, some people say, Josh, but you kind of don't do that sometimes. And I'm like, not necessarily. I pay all my balances in full when I use my card. And when I have to use my card, like, for a big purchase, it's usually because I'm being paid back. Like, when I had to use my cards to pay for things for my aunt's medicine and things like that, I knew I was going to get paid back because my mom would pay me back. That's what she said. Just do it and you'll get paid back. And I'm like, yeah, I don't mind. And that's why I don't worry that much. Like, because I learned how to build my credit in a healthy way. And now my credit score is really good. And I'm in a good spot right now, especially for a college student, because now I have good credit, and, you know, it helps lead into, like, better opportunities later down the line. And it's handy to have, because, you know, by the time I graduate college, my score might be 800 or 850. 800, keep in mind, 850 is perfect, but it is a perfect credit score, and that's very hard to get. But I could probably get 800 in the course of finishing college. But it definitely takes time, and you have to be smart about it, and you have to learn how to manage your money correctly. You have to manage those balances. Don't even have a balance to begin with, because then that's how you get charged interest, and that's what causes issues. And that section alone, talking about, like, the interest and everything, really leads into into why I view the Apple credit card as a way of trapping people into the Apple ecosystem, because essentially Apple now has control over your bank now, how you manage your money. And that's a very scary thing if you think about it, because think about it. You have an iPhone. You have a card that gives you points and cash back on Apple purchases. So now you're like, oh, I'm going to sync this card to my iCloud. I'm going to sync this to my iTunes, my Apple Music, you know, things like that. I'm going to sync it to, I might use it to buy a new MacBook or a new iMac or something like that. And it makes Apple basically the easiest way to control you, because now they got you by I was going to say something else, but it's essentially they got you by the throat, because at this point they basically have control over you, because, well, now they control you financially. And it's a scary thing, especially because I get it. Their app is very intuitive. You know, they made it to work the best they can on their platform, but it's a very scary thing, because one, the bank's not so secure. So if having fraud and things like that is going to be very tricky with Goldman Sachs, you know, obviously in terms of the app management itself, you can get a better thing, because I know a lot of people pay for Equifax, and that gives you a more detailed rundown of your credit score and, you know, how to improve and things like that. Because a lot of people that already have credit either use, you know, Equifax or TransUnion and things like that. You know, Credit Karma is a really good free option as well. Very basic, but it is very handy. And in my opinion, you're putting yourself in a tough spot if you go for the Apple credit card. Even for people that love Apple products and love buying them, you can get a much better deal, especially with Apple now partnering again with Amazon to sell products. You can just get the Amazon card, and that gets 5% cash back on all Amazon purchases. And a lot of people brought up this argument too, because it was very important, like that you can buy the same MacBook on Amazon, the same MacBook Pro, same spec and everything. You can get it for less, and you get 5% cash back on that purchase if you have the Amazon card. And I think that's very important, is because I don't agree that you should just use this card for everything, because one, Apple is, well, it's a very easy card to get, because Apple seems to be accepting anybody. Even if you have no credit, people have been getting accepted, you know, left and right. And that's maybe because Goldman Sachs is not that much of a trusted bank, so they want more people using it and things like that. But it's a very easy card to get, and that's what to me makes it very scary, because if you can get the card for having like a really crappy credit score, that's really concerning. And I get it, some people don't have credit and they have like, you know, 6-figure jobs and they don't even have credit, and that's fine, you know. But it's a very important thing to have overall, because you get access to more tools and more resources, and it's very handy. Now, I will make sure that I get this, like, make sure I state this properly. Do I overall hate the card? No, but I just don't agree with a lot of decisions Apple made with it, because first off, the whole thing that the card is made out of titanium and the fact that it gets stained by leather, that's dumb. Like, your engineers couldn't figure this out. You have some of the smartest engineers on this entire planet, and you couldn't figure this out. Like, you have to be, like, I know some people are going to say, Josh, that's mean, but you have to be retarded. Like, how can you not have thought of this? Like, if you know a lot of people have their stuff in a leather wallet, how did you not figure this out? Like, and they tell you it, like, the fact that they even tell you is like so dumb. Like, you guys couldn't think of a way to fix this? Like, really? Like, I get it's a nice card and it takes time, but really? Like, really? But that's shocking to me alone, but it's stupid, but it's really shocking. But the fact that Goldman Sachs is not a trusted bank as well is another big knock for me personally. You know, the fact that you can get a much better card and you can purchase things, and, you know, the fact that, you know, the Discover It has 5% cash back on different quarters, and very, very popular quarters too, because I know a lot of people, the Amazon one's huge, because if you have it, then you don't need the Amazon card. You can just make your purchases through that time. And overall, to me, that's how I view it. Now, I think there are some pros to the card. I think it just comes down to Apple thinking what they want to do with it. And I think it's just, you have to be very careful. Even if you have an iPhone and you're already in the Apple ecosystem, I would say be careful with going for this card, guys, because it may be really easy to get. And I know it makes it so intuitive because it's plugged into the ecosystem and everything, but I would be very, very careful with this card, because you can get a more secure card from a more secure bank, and you do get more perks out of those cards, because it's kind of how I view it, is this card doesn't really have that much, I'd say, benefit. I'm not going to say not that much benefit, but even for people that are pro Apple and love Apple products, it doesn't benefit them that much. And a lot of people will debate me on that, and I'm like, that's fine, you can debate me. Like, we can talk and have a good discussion, a thoughtful discussion, and break it down. But from my perspective, this is not a good card. And I hope you guys can at least respect my opinion and understand that, you know, I presented to you as objectively as I can, especially bringing up the other cards and everything, and presenting you the other options. But at the same time, I also presented you with my opinion that I just don't believe this is a good card. And to me, this just seems like an easy way for Apple to keep their consumers trapped in their ecosystem. And I don't believe in only supporting one brand for everything. I always believe that you should be very robust in terms of what you use and have multiple brands in your home. Like, to me, that just makes more sense. And that's how I view it. That just makes more sense to be more robust and have more, I'd say knowledge overall. I think that's the proper term to put, is that you're more well informed, that you're not so blind that you're only going by one brand and believe that this is the superior brand to everything. No, I don't believe that you should do that. I think that's very unhealthy. And I believe that if you're interested in technology, especially for people that are listening to my show interested in engineering, you can't be that way. You have to be as objective and fair as possible, because if we go by your opinions, then that's a very scary thing, because what if your opinion's wrong? You get what I'm saying? Like, you have to be as objective and try to find the balance point and, you know, be smart about it. And that's how I view it. But I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. I know this is a little bit more informative. Like, obviously most of my videos are informative anyways, but I know this is more centered around numbers and finances and, you know, financial literacy and things like that. But I hope you guys enjoy, and I hope you guys keep coming back. Obviously, I know I'm really going to miss doing the episodes on Friday, because I really like doing multiple episodes a week, but we'll work on the scheduling and we'll see how it goes. It really just depends on how busy my coursework is, because a lot of my classes do require me to do a lot of work nowadays, because they're very intensive, and since I'm now in the engineering college, I have to do more of my engineering classes, and they do require more time from me. So I will say don't keep your hopes up for the Friday's episode, but I'll let you guys know. I might make it a reoccurring thing, and I'll let you guys know on the poll on the page to see what you guys think, what I end up coming up with. But I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Thank you guys so much for your time, for listening. I love you guys to death. Have yourselves a wonderful week, and I may see you guys on Friday, maybe not, but I'll let you guys know. But until then, guys, I love you guys to death. Bye. Hey there. Thank you for listening to today's episode. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day and listening to today's episode. If you're interested in supporting the show, whether it be financially, clicking the follow button, or just sharing the episode, it all works for me, guys. Thank you guys so much for your time, and I love you guys to death.